Good day, all, and thank you for joining us for this very special GIS report. For the Department of Information and Public Relations, I am your GIS host, Sanjay Greenwich. And today we are here to discuss a very important topic, the Great VA Initiative. And of course, I have joining me today Mr. Kedrick Malone, and he is the Governance Reform Delivery Manager, and he's here to tell us all about Great VA. So welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you for having me, Sanjay. It's good to be here. Great VI stands for Governance, Reform, Education, and Awareness Transformation. We thought that was an appropriate acronym to describe the education program we're launching to educate the public about the changes that came out of the COI, the Commission of Inquiry. So you'll be hearing a lot more about Great VI, and you'll be seeing it. And hopefully, when you hear Great VI, you think governance reform and all of the changes that have been made to better life and to improve the quality of governance in the Virgin Islands.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Malone. Let's backtrack a bit because I don't want us to operate under the assumption that everyone knows what the COI is, right? So can we touch a bit about the COI and tell us a bit about your role as well?
Okay, so the COI stands for Commission of Inquiry, and all countries have a Commission of Inquiry legislation, which means that if there's suspected wrongdoing in the country, they can ask for an inquiry into the wrongdoing. We're an overseas territory of the United Kingdom, so that power is with the governor under the previous legislation. And I must add at this point that based on the amended legislation, the Premier can now call an inquiry, not just the governor. But the inquiries are to investigate suspected wrongdoing and to issue a report. We had a report done by Sir Gary Higginbottom into suspected corruption, misuse of power, victimization. Those are all allegations of the Commission of Inquiry. And I can say, having gone through the process, we recognize that fundamentally, the fundamental issue was really the lack of governance, or the breakdown of governance structures, or the lack of reform of governance in the Virgin Islands.
Okay, thank you for that context, Mr. Malone. So the Great VA is going to be structured in a series of town hall meetings.
Yes.
Can you tell us what the objectives of the meetings are? I know you would have touched on it briefly before, but what has to happen for you to deem these town hall meetings a success?
So what has to happen, we will judge success by the extent that people understand what has changed in the areas where the Commission of Inquiry had implementations. People are seeing improvement in service, they're seeing improvement in processes, they feel that things are more transparent, they feel that members of government are more accountable, and they feel that we have a better society. And we should not find ourselves in this position ever again.
Okay, so you mentioned accountability, and one of the components of accountability is, public participation and
Right.
how government responds to this participation. So what is going to be put in place to ensure that this feedback is collected in such a way that is going to be utilized so that people's voices are heard and recorded?
Right. So the education campaign, the Great VI campaign, will have a series of. We're starting with a series of public meetings. These are meetings where the ministers of government will speak about the areas of responsibility that have changed. The permanent secretaries will be there to provide that level of technical details, answer the public's questions. And this is a very important process. This is the most important part of the COI because all of the reports and the policies and the legislation mean nothing if the people don't understand what has changed, if they don't feel that this is a positive change, if they don't see the benefits of the change. So the Great VI campaign is designed to make sure that people understand what has changed, how it impacts them, how it impacts how government works, how to find information on the change. If you need to find information on getting assistance or mitigation in terms of you have an issue with your property and you need government assistance, just to find out where that information is, how to apply for it, if there's a form, how to get the form, and just the whole process. So it's make sure that it's easier for people to do business with government and they feel that the changes that were made are to their benefit and to the country's benefit. So in relation to that, the governor is charged by the Overseas Territories Minister of conducting a survey of the COI in terms of measuring people's understanding of it. Do people feel it was a good thing, was a bad thing? Are they happy with the outcome? Do they understand the outcomes? It's going to be a series of surveys, but initially it will be designed to get people's feedback about the overall COI, to see how they felt about it.
Okay, so the town hall meetings will be centered around the 48 recommendations. Can you
Yes.
mention for us what are some of the key reforms that will take place that will impact governance as we know it in the Virgin Islands?
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest ones is around immigration, where there were amendments. There was an immigration policy, and there were also amendments to the Immigration and Passport Act, which deals with residency and belongship. And we know that's a very big issue in the Virgin Islands, as we depend on persons coming to the territory for work to support the economy. And then the issue of work permits to residency to belongship, that process is now clarified. The law aligns with policy. So that's a very big impact area. Another big impact area is public assistance. We had a system where funds for assisting persons in the community went through the members of the House of Assembly. That has been discontinued. The Public Assistance Act makes provision for that to be more transparent to social development. That legislation is not in force yet because there's a huge amount of work in terms of regulations and systems and structures that will need to go in place for that to come into force. But that's a very important piece of legislation as well. There's the Crown Land Management Act, which creates a more structured, transparent way of managing Crown lands. And you know that land is a blood issue in the BVI.
Right.
So the Crown Lands Act is very important. We know it's critical in places like Anegada, where there are lots of Crown land. You have the Public Service Management Act, which essentially revamp the relationship between ministers, permanent secretaries, department heads. It makes provision for training. It makes provision for the role of a deputy governor. It makes provision for a lot of areas of the public service management that will improve its efficiency, improve its accountability, improve the way it works, and improve the internal mechanism. There's a Standards Commission Act, which governs the behavior of members of the House of Assembly, where they are now being held accountable to an integrity commission. So the
Right.
public will have the ability, if they feel a member of the House of Assembly is doing something inappropriate, there's a process for them to go to a commission for that. There are integrity legislation that govern the behavior of public servants and members of statutory boards. There's the discretionary powers policy, which governs the power of ministers to make decisions and to ensure there's transparency. So there is a lot that is addressing fundamentally how governance works in the territory. And it's a lot of information to process, and that's why we've created the campaign. It's not just a one-off, it's going to be a series of information, of lectures, where people can really get a clear understanding of all of these changes, what it means to them, and how to take advantage of these changes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malone. towards the government's commitment to be inclusive, I know that some of the town hall meetings are scheduled to take place on the sister islands. Can you
Right.
say a bit about, the date, the times, how persons can get more information about venues and what they need to do to attend?
Absolutely. So the meeting starts on Sunday in Anegada, and
February 2nd.
February 2nd, Sunday, February 2nd in Anegada. The meetings will begin from 2. The meetings are scheduled for 2 to 3 hours, so then there's the 2 to 4 in Anegada on Sunday. And then on Tuesday at 6 p.m. at Treasure Isle Hotel will be for Tortola and Josh Van Dyke, and persons from Josh Van Dyke will be transported both by ferry and by taxi to the venue. And they'll just need to notify the Premier's office so they can make appropriate transportation arrangements. And then on Thursday, the 6th, we go to Virgin Water. And that meeting is from 5:30 to 9:30. The Tortola meeting is from 6 to 9, so 3 hours. In addition to the meeting on the COI, the ministers of government will also have an open forum where members of the public can speak about any issue that's of concern to them. And again, those notes will be made of those issues, and they'll either discuss them there or make arrangement to follow up. So it's a very important time for BVI. It's really when we, take all of the last 2 years of work, the last 2 years of changes, and bring it to the public. Of course, the public would have participated in the process through consultations in the policy stage, the legislative stage when it's in the House of Assembly. So obviously things change when they go to committee stage, and now we have the final legislation. So it's good to people to just sort of see where we ended up with these things and make sure that they're happy with where they are and have their questions answered.
Thank you. As we move towards a close, is there anything else you would like to add, especially as it relates to how you believe the feedback that will be received will go towards it shaping the future of the territory?
Yeah. I mean, I personally, haven't sat through this process. I came on board in April of last year, and I was amazed at the amount of work that the public officers had done to get us to the point where we had implemented a lot of the recommendations. We had done the policies, and we were preparing the legislative phase. But it's a tremendous amount of work that was done. And I think people, when they sit and listen and when they ask questions and realize what was done, you realize that we're in a position to really transform the territory. It positions us for a stronger discussion, negotiation for our Constitution, because now we have better governance, we have more transparency, we have more accountability. And that bodes well for the BVI, that we were able to go through that process and participate in it in a democratic way, as opposed to having someone come in and impose those things on us. So I think we should be grateful to the Premier and his team for navigating to get us to that stage. So I just want to encourage the public to come out, hear about what has changed in your country. The future of the Virgin Islands is strengthened by what has happened, so people need to understand that, to understand how it benefits them, to understand how it's benefiting the territory, and just to be able to take advantage of where we are as a country, because from where I sit, I'm very excited about the potential to go forward now that we've addressed all of these issues. So it's a great time in the Virgin Islands.
Thank you. A great time. So remind us on that note, what does GREAT VI stand for?
So GREAT VI stands for Governance, Reform, Education, and Awareness Transformation. So we are in the process of making you more aware, giving you the level of education you need, because we think that will lead to transformation of the Virgin Islands.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Great
Malone.
VI.
Great VI. There
Great
you have
VI,
it.
yes.
And the public is obviously encouraged to not only attend, but to participate fully in these upcoming town hall meetings. At this time, I just want to thank you, Mr. Malone, for your time and for your valuable insights.
Thank you. Thanks, Sharon.
And for the Department of Information and Public Relations, I have been your GIS host, Sanjay Greenwich.